Hi, this is Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, right back here on WagerTalk TV with your college football top 25 video preview for this Saturday, October the 14th, week 7. We're over halfway through the college football season. I'm going to preview the 4 biggest head-to-head top 25 matchups. As we do every week, a couple additional games that are just a bit outside. In fact, 4 bonus games, top 30-ish, if you will. Here's some bonus games. So 8 games analyzed in depth. Going to give you my database simulation, my 10,000 game simulation, let you know what the average margin of victory is for each game, where the line value is, and then dig a little bit deeper as well with some analysis and situational handicapping so we can point you towards some point spread winners this week of week 7 college football. Hey, let me know your thoughts below in the comments. I read all the comments. I reply back. Let me know where you agree or disagree with these top 25 games, and also where you find some under-the-radar games. These are the high-profile games, but those under-the-radar games can be just as profitable. So leave your college football best bets in the comments below. Let's all win together here on Wager Talk TV. All right, let's get right to it. We'll start with the true head-to-head top 25 matchups, and we do have 4 of them this Saturday on October the 14th. And we'll go down as we do each week in start time order with the first game, which is probably the biggest game of the week. In fact, it's the only true top 10 matchup. In fact, it's a top 8 matchup in the Pac-12, and that goes at 3:30 Eastern on ABC. Number 8, Oregon at number 7, Washington. So we don't have to wait long for just one of the biggest games of the season. And unfortunately, my database and really my situational handicapping does not show a lot of value in this game. I've got a lot of opinions on this video for you. This is probably the one that doesn't really jump out to me, and I'm going to tell you why, though. First of all, my 10,000 game simulation in the database has on average Oregon losing by 3. So Washington should be a 3-point favorite. As we check the Wager Talk live odds screen, Washington rather, is a 3-point favorite across the board. Totals around that 67 range. So I don't see a lot of value with the point spread here. And keep in mind, this is a big revenge game for Oregon. They lost outright as a 12-point home favorite last year. Washington had a really good season. They were only outstatted in 2 games last year. That was at UCLA and at Oregon last year on November 12th. And yet they still were a 12-point dog in that game. They won 37-34. And really nothing misleading about the win. They had a 9.2 to 7.5 yards per play advantage. And the two teams combined for over 1,100 yards of offense. But guess what? It still stayed under the total with just 71 points because the total was 74 last year. Now it's only 67. It's a full touchdown lower. So if this game is anything like last year's shootout, the over might be worth a look. I think one of the reasons the total is a little lower is because Oregon has gone under now 4 straight games. They're 4-1 under for the season. Washington is 3-2 under. Thing, though, that keeps me off the total here, just like the side, is that Oregon's pass defense has been just fantastic. 4.8 yards per pass allowed against teams that average 6.7, but Washington averages 11.5 yards per pass attempt. So obviously a huge step up in class. I still think both offenses hold the edge. And once again, last year's game maybe went under, but it was misleading. It was a high-scoring shootout, at least from a yardage perspective. So if it's anything like that, maybe the over is the best way to play it. But once again, as far as the side goes, my projection is Oregon by 3, and that's the point spread. You know, sometimes there's just not any value, even though it's probably the biggest game this week. All right, let's look at some other games here in the top 25, some games in which I do think there's some value. We'll start off with the next game on the start time order, and that goes at 7:30 Eastern. Number 10, USC, Southern Cal at number 21, Notre Dame on NBC at 7:30 Eastern. And my database does show some value with Notre Dame in this game. I was actually surprised to see Notre Dame favored as a point spread perspective. I was hoping to get them as an underdog here, but I still think at 2.5 or less, we are getting some value. This line hovering around 2.5 and that key number of 3. So keep an eye on it as we head closer to the weekend. But my database simulation has Notre Dame winning on average by 5.5 points. So there is some line value with the Irish. And I have no problem taking the much, how many muches? 4 muches? Much better defense at home, laying less than a field goal. And that's because Notre Dame's on the season giving up less than 16 points a game and only 4.5 yards per play. USC, meanwhile, giving up 27 points a game, 5.7 yards per play against teams that averages 5.4. Notre Dame is averaging 7 yards per play. So USC has not stopped anyone this year, and now they're facing probably their best offensive opponent yet. So Notre Dame should have plenty of success, and I think they're the better defense. Now, my concern, and there's always concerns with every game, there's no slam dunks. This is football, not basketball, is the scheduling spot. You know, last week we had a nice best bet going against Notre Dame with Louisville for my clients at WagerTalk.com. I also mentioned that here on the video that I liked Louisville as a live home dog. Part of the reason, of course, was the scheduling setup. Notre Dame a few weeks ago was +3, should have won the game outright, ended up pushing, losing by 3 late to Ohio State. Then they came back, barely won at Duke. And then last week, I thought it was a terrible spot after the 2 close games and then having USC on deck. And Notre Dame came up flat. So we cashed with Louisville, but I'm willing to come back with Notre Dame this week. Even though they have 2 losses now, they're probably out of the national title picture. That is a concern. I think they'll still come to play this week against USC. Next week is a bye also, so they should go all out for this home game. And we do get some line value. We get the much better defensive team. Take a look at Notre Dame minus 2.5 or less. Once again, that's a very key number here because we have both 2.5s and 3s starting to pop on the WagerTalk live odds screen. Obviously, 2.5 is a nice number if you can still find it, which you should be able to. It's widely available, but shop around as always. All right, another game at 7:30 Eastern, also on Saturday night. Also, this one's on ABC, is number 25 Miami of Florida against number 12 North Carolina. 2 teams that just headed in exact opposite directions in the polls from last week. Miami made history, blowing that game against Georgia Tech, not taking a knee. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts on that. It's one of the worst coaching decisions, in my opinion, I've ever seen. They weren't going to cover either way as a 19-point favorite, but that was misleading. 4 turnovers turned into 5 turnovers, and obviously that 5th turnover is devastating. But overall, they had a 5-2 turnover disadvantage, still should have won the game, and they actually had over 440 yards of offense, held Georgia Tech to just 250 total yards. And if you take out that last drive in which Georgia Tech went like 70-some yards, they really played a good game, Miami did, and it was a misleading loss. But you do have to worry, and you do have to wonder if that loss lingers into a hangover now. And they're barely clinching a top 25 ranking. First loss of the season. They're not out of it. But that undefeated record would have been really key coming into this game against North Carolina. Clemson on deck next week. Florida State next month. Miami could have controlled their own destiny. Now they're going to probably need a little bit of help. Let's look at the database to start with. Let's see if we're getting any line value here. And I actually think we are. I was surprised that my database rescore simulation, 10,000 games, once again, run through the database, has North Carolina winning on average by 10 points in this matchup. So I do think the line is a little short here. Currently, it's -3, juiced to -3, minus $1.15 at the WagerTalk live odds screen. So we are seeing some 3.5s out there. So once again, a very key number. But I do like North Carolina at -3 or less based on line value. And I've got no problem playing against Miami in what looks like a potential flat spot this week. Hurricanes have been really good on both sides of the ball this year, but so has North Carolina. Impressive blowout win of Syracuse last week, 40-7. And if Miami comes a little flat, they better be careful because North Carolina put up over 640 yards of offense last week in that Syracuse win. All right, there's one final true head-to-head top 25 matchup, and that's at 8 o'clock Eastern on Fox Saturday night. Once again in the Pac-12, number 18 UCLA against number 15 Oregon State. And, last week, one of those bonus outside the box or just a bit outside teams was UCLA, unranked home favorite against Washington State. And as I told you in the video, I like the Bruins. My math model favored them, and it was a good spot. They were catching a Washington State team that had just played Oregon State in a big game before that and pulled the upset at home. It all set up well for UCLA last week, and they did win that game 25-17. Now you do wonder about the scheduling spot here. It's not an ideal spot taken to the road. They're now ranked for the first time this season against a really good offensive opponent. On the season, UCLA's defense has been lights out. They're one of the best in the country, allowing just 12 points a game, just 3.7 yards per play. But their opponents have only averaged 23 points and 5.3 yards per play on offense. Oregon State's averaging over 38 points, 6.9 yards per play. So this is a huge step up in class. We will find out if UCLA's defense is for real this season or not. But I still lean that way based on line value. My database, 10,000 games, once again, played throughout the database, once again shows that UCLA is an undervalued team. I've got this game currently at 5.5. So we'll see how it plays out on the field. But once again, I do think UCLA going forward could be a very underrated team. And the current line, by the way, is 3.5. So, it's a little cheap here. We'll see what happens. But once again, doesn't look like a great scheduling spot for UCLA, even though I do think they're a play-on team overall with that defense. But this is one of those sit back, let's watch and see. It's UCLA's defense for real when they take on a potent Beavers attack. Hey, by the way, leave me some comments below. Let me know your thoughts, not only on that game, if you think UCLA's defense is for real, but what you think about the Miami of Florida spot. Is it a flat spot? Have you ever seen anything like the way they decided to blow that game last week? Also, Notre Dame, do they have anything left to play for with the 2 losses here? I mean, that's something else we had to talk about. And once again, my math model is right at 3 on the Oregon-Washington game. I don't see a lot of value there. But what is your take on that number 7 versus 8 matchup? Comment below. I read all the comments. I reply back. I love the support here on Wager Talk TV. I'm going to get to 4 more bonus games for you here in just a moment, games that are just outside the top 25. Quick reminder, though, my personal best bets are available right now at WagerTalk.com. I've got a 5-for-1 special for college football Saturday, locked and loaded nice and early right now, so you can lock in and get the best price on all these games. And you can get an additional $10 discount when you use promo code SM10. That's SM10, Steve Merril 10, this Saturday on my college football package. Gets you an instant $10 discount when you buy any package for this Saturday college football when you use promo code SM10 right now at WagerTalk.com. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. All right, we do every other week. Every week so far, we've been giving some bonus games here, and there's 4 games I want to talk about here in quick rapid fire. First one is at 3:30 Eastern on CBS, Texas A&M against number 19 Tennessee. Now, A&M, of course, lost their second game of the season last week against Alabama. If you look at the additional votes in the AP poll, they're the last team receiving votes, which means they're technically ranked 36th. So not sure they could sneak back into the top 25 with a win here, but they're still a really dangerous team. 4-2 straight up in ATS this season. You know, coming in, I said that Oklahoma and A&M were my play-on teams in September because they'd underachieved last year. And boy, did they sweep the board, going 9-1 against the spread in the month of September. A tough loss last week against Alabama. You do wonder if that might linger a bit. And I think it's a dangerous spot this week for A&M, so it would not be a play-on situation for me this week. My database simulation has Tennessee winning by 7, so I do think this line is a little short as well. At the current number of -3 or less, I do think there's some value with Tennessee, and also could be a potential flat spot for A&M after that tough loss against Alabama last week. Next game that I want to talk about is going at 4 o'clock Eastern on Fox National TV. Iowa against Wisconsin. Now, both Iowa and Wisconsin are not in the top 25, but once again, if you look at the additional votes, Iowa Hawkeyes are ranked 34th. Wisconsin would be 29th. So I do think Wisconsin has a chance of sneaking into the top 25 if they have an impressive win here on Saturday. And one thing we got to talk about is the total. I know we talk a lot of sides here, but just fascinating to talk about Iowa the last couple seasons. I've really enjoyed analyzing their games. I've never seen such a good defense and such a bad offense on the same team, on the same field. And that's been the case once again this season. Hawkeyes are allowing just 16 points a game, and they're catching nearly 10 here, but they're only averaging 21.5, 4.6 yards per play. Wisconsin's been pretty good on both sides of the ball, especially the defensive side. So not a surprise that we have an extremely low total here. In fact, as we check the Wager Talk live odds screen, opened as high as 37.5, down to 34, even starting to see some 33.5s. 37 is usually like the bottom bare minimum number. Anything below that is a really low-scoring game. But Ralph Michaels, Stat Daddy, the chart master, a couple weeks ago had a really interesting trend that over the last several seasons, whenever the total was 36.5 or less in college football, the under was 20-5, 80%. And then that very week, Iowa goes out there and they have an over against Michigan State in that spot. But it was a misleading over with 42 points because they once again did it with non-offensive touchdowns. Problem is, when you get a total this low, there's not a lot of wiggle room. Last week's game did stay under the 38.5 with a 34 against Purdue. Now we're down to 34, 33.5. You have to wonder if the odds makers have kind of priced out any value now with the under. As far as the database simulation, once again, Wisconsin's currently about a 9.5-point favorite. My database 10,000 game simulation has Wisconsin winning by 15 on average. So I do lean towards Wisconsin in this game. And once again, if they have an impressive enough win, they could maybe sneak into the top 25 next week. All right, let's look at another game in which we have 2 unranked teams, but the winner of this game I think probably will be ranked next week, and that's Wyoming at Air Force at 7 o'clock Eastern on CBS Sports Network. In the additional votes right now in the AP, Wyoming's 27th, Air Force is 28th. So I do think the winner here gets ranked, and I think that will be Air Force. In fact, I use this as a free play on the College Football Show on Thursday. Be sure to go back and check out that episode here on Wager Talk TV. We break down numerous games each and every day on the College Football Show. And several reasons I like Air Force. First of all, my database simulation favors them by 15 points in this game. Currently, as of Thursday afternoon, they're currently a 10-point favorite. I have seen some 10.5 start to pop on the Wager Talk live odds screen. So once again, shop around, find -10 as it's a very key number. But either way, I like Air Force in this game to win by margin. Total's 41, so it should be a low-scoring game. And that makes sense because Air Force runs the ball basically every play. Wyoming's bad offensively, good defensively. But where Wyoming's been really good this year has been their pass defense. 6.1 yards allowed against teams that average 7.3. Their run defense has been mediocre, 4.1 yards per rush allowed. That's all that matters. This is such a simple handicap. Air Force throws the ball on average 4 times a game. 4 times a game they throw the ball. They run the ball 60 times a game. Triple option, not a surprise. So I think they're going to have some matchup edges here with the running attack. Wyoming has shown some weakness against good running teams this year. They've only played one true road game until this week. That was week 3 against Texas, which they gave up 185 rushing yards. They've been at home ever since for the past month. Next 2 home games after, they gave up 217 to Appalachian State, 214 rushing yards to New Mexico. Did have a nice win last week as a home dog against Fresno, but now they're traveling, so it's a potential letdown spot. And it's a huge focus spot for Air Force because they've got revenge after losing last year at Wyoming as a 16.5-point road favorite. So it's a good situational setup. It's a good matchup, and we get line value as I favor them by 15. I like Air Force here at -10, and I think if they can win this game, they might be ranked next week as well. All right, one final game on the outside looking in here, and these two teams both are barely hanging around that top 25, and that's number 26, Missouri. They're the first team out of the top 25 in the AP. I believe they're actually 25th in the coaches poll against number 24, Kentucky. So definitely whoever wins this game will be top 25 next week. Whoever loses will not be ranked next week. So this game has a lot on the line as far as rankings go, and it is at 7:30 Eastern, by the way, on the SEC Network, Missouri at Kentucky. First thing that jumps out to me, last week we faded Kentucky. I mentioned it here in the video, and I had a strong best bet for my clients at WagerTalk.com on the Georgia Bulldogs. Just love the situation. First of all, we got line value because Georgia hadn't covered all season. The public was heavy on Kentucky. The 2 big public dogs last week were Kentucky and Maryland. Both failed to cover, and Kentucky got blown out. Maryland actually was covering for a while and blew it at the end, but Kentucky lost by 38. You do have to wonder if that lingers a bit here after a physical game against Georgia. Problem is Missouri's coming off a bad loss as well. They were also undefeated on the season, and they blew a lead and lost to LSU in a high-scoring back-and-forth game, 49-39, in which LSU got the front door cover with a late score. So both teams on the surface look like they're in a bad scheduling spot here. So let's look at the math model. My 10,000 game database simulation has on average Kentucky winning this game by 3 points. As we check the WagerTalk live odds screen on Thursday afternoon, Kentucky currently a 2.5-point favorite, although I've seen it starting to drop to -2 in some locations. So keep an eye on this. Doesn't look like it's going to get up to that key number of 3. So a teeny bit of line value with Kentucky, but not a game I'm interested in. Both teams in flat spots here, so probably a game that's best to be left alone. But once again, the winner will be ranked, the loser will not. So it's an important game to talk about, at least for this video. Hey, look, that's 8 college football games. I gave you the 4 head-to-head top 25 games, arguably the 4 biggest matchups of the week. But I went even deeper, as I always did. Gave you 4 bonus games. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful. If you did, do a couple quick favors for me. Give me a thumbs up, a like for the video, and leave comments below. I read all the comments. I reply back. I love the support. Let me know not only where you agree or disagree with the top 25, but your under-the-radar best bets as well. Some of those ugly MAC or Sun Belt games where we find value also. Give me your best bets for this weekend and give some analysis, too. I love reading the analysis. Some excellent, sharp handicappers watch WagerTalk TV, and that's why I try to provide as much information as possible because I know many of you are doing your own handicapping as well, and you do quite well. Hit subscribe and hit the bell for instant alerts for this video each week, but also my NFL Fade the Public video will be posted on Friday evening. So hit the bell for instant alerts on that. And don't forget all the standalone top 25 college football videos, and every NFL game is analyzed as well this week. I did several of those here on WagerTalk TV. And finally, if you want my official best bets, my strongest plays for this Saturday, I've got 5 Saturday college football best bets loaded right now, nice and early for you, so you can lock in and get the best number on each and every play. It's a 5-for-1 quintuple, whatever the word would be, pack. It's not a triple pack. It's not a quite. It's a quintuple. Comment below. Let me know how I'm screwing that up. But it's a 5-for-1 special, and you can get an instant $10 discount when you use promo code SM10, as in Steve Merril, the number 10, SM10, as you see it right here on the screen. SM10 gets you an instant $10 discount on my Saturday college football package. Any package you want, but that 5-for-1 special is obviously the best value. So whether you're joining us early or late, if you're getting in early, get the 5-pack. If you're joining us later on Saturday, get the later games as well. No matter what you choose, you get an instant $10 discount on Saturday with promo code SM10 right now at WagerTalk.com. My page, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker with shortcut WT.buzz/SM. Follow me on Twitter, as always, at Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L, at Steve Merril on Twitter. And check back later into this weekend for my NFL Fade the Public video. And hit subscribe, hit the bell for instant alerts when it goes live. Thanks for watching. Best of luck. Enjoy the games, and talk to you again soon right here on Wager Talk TV.